You've landed that first job. Congratulations. Excellent. Now we have some things to take into account. Make sure that we excel. We do the best as possible in that job. So the first thing we're going to look at is making sure that we know what to wear when we start out. And this is simple as ask the employer. Whoever's hiring you, ask them, hey, what should I wear the first day? Even if they provide uniforms, it's probably going to take at least 2 weeks before you get those uniforms. So understanding what you need to wear is going to be very important. And then go out and buy it. Typically, the secondhand stores, again, are a great way to do that. You can get some secondhand clothes that are really nice condition and for very cheap, and those are some great ways to start out. Now, you got to be thinking you need to look nice in front of the customer, you need to be presentable, but at the same time, you're probably going to get some of these clothes pretty dirty. For example, caulking and duct sealant, these are things that are going to stain your clothes. You're going to be crawling through attics, nails and screws. All these things can tear and rip your clothes. So you want to make sure that you're able to wear something that's going to be looking nice, it's affordable, and also that you can be comfortable within that job. And make sure you bring yourself a spare set of clothes. Always keep a spare set of socks, underwear, some kind of a pants, at least a change of t-shirts, because you never know what's going to happen. Especially if your lead stops and gets that gas station food and you don't know how long that's been sitting there. Yeah, you don't know when things are going to hit. So having a change of clothes is important. You never know when you're under a house and a pipe breaks on you. So having a change of clothes can really make a bad day good. Also, you want to make sure you have your mindset right. You want to keep your mindset positive no matter what. No matter what's happening at home. No matter what happened on the traffic on the way in, you want to make sure that you're positive. So you want to make sure that you're getting to work early. You don't have to start working early, but be at work 15 minutes early. So that way, anything happens with traffic, hey, you had time to still get there. You're not as stressed. A lot of times you can be stressed just trying to get to work. So keeping your mindset positive. What do you have to listen to in the radio? If you're listening to politics in the morning, maybe try something else because that can really put you in a negative mindset. So anything to do to stay positive in the morning, that positive vibe, positive music, whatever it takes to get there and be positive. Whatever's happening at home, you want to leave it at the door before you walk into that company. The same thing when you go home. Whatever happened at work, you leave it outside the house when you go home. Keep those separate. It makes life a whole lot easier. But keeping that positive mindset and realizing that, hey, no matter what happens today, I'm going to be and do the best that I possibly can. That's going to be very important. Now, when you're riding with these technicians, you're going to be riding with people from multiple different generations and multiple different backgrounds, multiple different cultures, different religions, different political viewpoints, and a lot of times a lot of rift in that. So there's some things you can do to help protect yourself. One of the things you can do is make sure you don't talk about sports, religion, or politics. Keep those three things out of your vocabulary at work. Do not talk about them. I don't care if the game was on last night and you're talking about it. Keep it completely separate. If the lead that's training you is talking about it, bite your tongue. I'm not going to talk about this. I'm going to let them talk. I'm not going to talk about this. Let them communicate, but you got to compartmentalize it. You got to keep that separate. Don't let their views change your views, and also don't respond because that can make a really good working relationship turn bad. And unfortunately, those three things are the hot topics all around right now. Actually, they've been that way since back when I got sergeant at trade. So it's nothing new, but it can definitely cause rift between two people very, very, very quickly. They had leads that would refuse to train the people they're working with because they liked the opposing football team. I've seen people before that wanted the other person to get out of their service vehicle because of their political viewpoints were different. So just as a key, try to keep those separate. And who you're talking with, they're making you uncomfortable, ask them, sir, ma'am, this is making me very uncomfortable. We have different viewpoints in this. Can we please just not talk about this or talk about anything else? And most of the time, people are okay with that. But you still get so many people that they're just really set on their ways. There's so many people that sports, religion, and politics are really all one, and they have to be right. And that's okay to let them be that way. Just don't get involved in that. Don't entertain it. Even if you agree on something, still try to keep that separate. Because if you agree right now, you could disagree on another point, and then all of a sudden things can turn bad. So keep it talking about work and HVAC life, that kind of stuff's really important. Also, playing podcasts. Brian has a great podcast. Listening to while you're driving, listening to HVAC stuff, this kind of thing can help immerse it, can help bring out questions. That can also make a very big difference. Now, let's talk about who you're going to be training with. You're going to be working a lot of times with maybe a salty person. They have a lot to get done, and here's another new person that they have to train. Who knows if they're going to stay or go? Who knows if they're going to make it? So they get a little bit, a little set in their ways, or they don't really want to take the time out to train you. And that's okay. You're going to have to do the work. Remember, education and your success relies completely on you. You're responsible for that. So if you keep your mindset focused on, I want to be successful, nothing is going to get in my way, then you will be successful. So even if they're not willing to train you right away, bite your tongue, go through it, push through, carry their tools. I don't let anybody else carry my tools, but when somebody offers to carry my tools, that's a big deal. And I used to go and carry the tradesmen above me. I would carry their tools, whatever I could do. And sometimes I wanted to ask questions, but some people don't typically want to talk. So I would bite my tongue and I would keep a notepad. You could do it on your phone. Write down or type in questions, things you want to understand. And when you get home, you research them. When your job ends, your education still begins. You need to carve away time from your family life to still focus on learning and figuring things out. Reading service manuals, the installation instructions, going through that kind of information is extremely, extremely powerful. But don't rely on your lead to constantly answer every single question you have. We say that we love people to ask questions, but in reality, a lot of people, they do get tired of that, do get burned out quick. If you think about ever having a young kid with you and you're out fishing or doing something and they're asking you, they're in the question stage and they're just asking you questions. And at first it's like, oh yeah, it's funny. And you start answering the questions. And then, a few hours later, it's like, please stop talking. I can't take any more questions. Sometimes that happens with the lead. And even though you have good intentions for questions, you're asking these questions, they can just get burned out or overwhelmed having to answer these questions all the time. So keeping that in mind, keeping their time valuable, keeping the questions. And if there's somebody who likes to talk, then yeah, keep asking them some questions. And if there's somebody who doesn't like to talk, build confidence in them first. Build trust in that person first. Now, once they trust you, they're more likely to start sharing information with you. I used to volunteer time to ride with other technicians, and I would ride with them, I'd carry tools with them, and one time it took this one guy, I think it was over a month of me riding with him, work with him before he actually started talking to me. But then he knew that he could trust me, he knew I wasn't going to bug him, and he started telling me his secrets. All the little tricks of the trade, the things that he did that got the best service calls, that got the no callbacks, because now he entrusted me. Don't spread company gossip. Do not spread that information. If somebody tells you something, hey, they were whatever with whatever, or I don't care what. I don't even want to give you a scenario, but you want to keep that between you only. Do not tell it to anybody else. And they're gonna challenge you in this. Hey, you were riding with Bob the other day. What did Bob say about me? Or what did Bob say about the secretary? What did Bob say about the customer service representative? Don't get into that. Hey, I don't know. He didn't talk about that. Just leave it. Just don't answer it. Don't get involved in that. And sometimes people will give you a little bit of information to see if that information is going to get back to them. It's a way of testing to see if they can trust you or not. So whatever it is, anybody tells you, it goes in one ear and just stays inside. It does not come back out your mouth to anything else. So you want to keep that, everybody's secrets, whatever they tell you, keep it completely separate. Before you know it, you're going to be the most trustworthy person in the company and everybody's going to like working with you. And again, you don't have to like the people you're working with, but it's definitely beneficial for them to like and trust you. And the faster that they like and trust you, the faster you're going to be moving up. And if you can, volunteer some time. Make some sacrifices. You got some family events. At the beginning, make some sacrifices. Cancel some events. Go to work. Get those things done. Learn as much as you possibly can. Apply yourself. And if they ask you to do something you don't want to do, bite your tongue and do it. And whatever you're doing, do it the best of your possible ability. Be the best at it. If they ask you to sweep the floor in the shop, make sure that nobody in that shop has ever cleaned it as good as you. If they're asking you to organize the tool room, make sure that tool room has never been organized so well before that you've been the best at it. If you're delivering parts, make sure that you're the best parts deliverer. Everybody likes that when you come to the job and deliver parts because you have a smile on your face. All of these things that you can do, you can train yourself to do, and you don't have to like it, but you can smile and not like it. But these are things you can do to help build that trust, to help move up fast as possible. And whatever you're doing, to be the best. If you're installing systems, try to be the absolute best at it. And once you get that job description of what you're going to be doing, so you're going to be an install helper, then start looking at YouTube videos about what that job's going to be so you can be as efficient as possible. And the faster that you can move up, the better you're going to be. The quicker you're making that company money, the better it's going to be for you. It's also important for you to understand when you get that first job for an employer, they're losing money. They're losing money by hiring you. They're taking on a liability because all the things you don't know. What if you didn't tie a ladder down correctly on the van and it slides off the van on the freeway? What happens when you step to the customer ceiling or you fall on a ladder, you burn up a part, you say something to a customer and the customer gets mad and never calls the company back? They're taking on a liability just because there's things that you don't know. They're also taking on costs because you're not making them money at first. You're actually costing them money because they're having to train you. It's going to take you a while before you're actually making them money. And you're slowing down the lead person. So the lead person, even though they need some assistance, you ultimately slow them down. They're having to then train you and stop and answer all these questions and for you to understand stuff. So as you get that first job, being mindful of the fact that as you're working with this person, their time is important and their time is valuable, and trying to get it to where you can move up to the company to where you're making that company money as fast as possible. It's going to be very important. Next thing you know, you're going to be the lead. You're going to be in your own service truck. You're going to be doing your own maintenance calls, whatever it is. You're going to be doing it mostly by yourself. You don't have people over your shoulder, and you have a whole lot more freedoms. But the quicker you get to where you're making that company money, the quicker you're going to be in those freedoms, and then the more money you're going to be making at that point. Then at some point, you're going to have to talk about, hey, I've got more certifications, I got more knowledge, more skills. When is it time for you to get that feedback? A great way for that is talk to the employer. Hey, what would I need to do for my next raise? This much time frame and accomplish these things. So let's say in 3 months, you should be able to do these 3 things. Now you know what you need to do, and you're going to study it, you're going to practice it, you're going to be the best you can. And then 3 months comes up, you ask, hey, can I get an evaluation on that like we promised? And then they talk about it, and they either agree or disagree that you've accomplished those 3 things, or they agree that you accomplished those 3 things, and they're not going to give you a raise. And now you have the experience, you can go look someplace else. But these are things you can do. Now, let's talk about a little bit of a dark part. When you work with some of the people in the field, some of the boomers and the Gen X like me, we went through a lot of hazing when we first got started. I mean, it's things that I hope you never have to go through. Nobody should have to go through. Throwing tools, calling you names. I mean, there's all kinds of really horrible things that people will say to sometimes new technicians or new trainees or new apprentices. And it shouldn't be that way. And I'm hoping that that's going to change sooner than later. But a lot of times you're going to have to deal with that, and there's going to be a point you just have to kind of bite your tongue and push through it. You're going to have to decide when it's the point where it's too much for you or not. But the quicker you can move past that, and you're going to be making money, and you're going to be training somebody, don't pass those waves back on. Just because somebody treated you bad when you started doesn't mean you need to treat anybody else bad. So you be the breaking point at that. And when somebody is treating you bad, bite your tongue. Know that you're going to be a better person. And put a timestamp on that. Hey, I'm going to suck it up and take this for this long. Now, I'm not talking about, somebody breaking laws on you. If they're breaking laws against you, whatever, you need to bring that up to the company, address that right away, for sure, get that stopped. But, a lot of the things is how people treat people. Just try to push past it the best you can, and keep a log. Keep a logbook with you. Hey, on this date, this person did this to me. They threw this tool at me. Whatever happened, keep a log with it. And that way, if anything does happen and you need some legal advice or whatever, having that log where you have dates and times and a list to go through, that can be very powerful. It's even more powerful when it's on paper. So I know that we're in a digital world, but having that stuff on paper with a written document written out with dates on it, different colors, pen, ink, things like that can help. Now I really hope that is never an issue for you. I hope that that's the ways of the old and it's gone. But I do hear students that talk about that from time to time, and I'm giving you both sides, how to handle it and how to deal with it, and worst case scenario, to assume it turns bad. Now, hopefully that's dead and gone and we won't have an issue, but it's just something you have to decide for yourself what your limits are. So keep that in mind. And the big thing is, push through, learn, and if you decide this is going to be your career, make it your career. You can make it happen. You have a bad boss the first round, the first so many months, the first year, push through, drive through, and then now you have a year's experience through all the seasons. And that next year, you can apply for a company. You have a year's experience. I've done this, that. I have these certifications. I can do these things. I have these skills now. Now you're set for that next level. And then never stop learning.